Jonathan Reeves woke up to the sound of car doors slamming. Not just one or two, but dozens. His brow furrowed as he pulled back the curtains, expecting to see a neighbor's gathering spilling onto the street. Instead, what he saw made his stomach tighten with rage.
Cars.
Everywhere. His driveway was blocked, his front lawn had become a makeshift parking lot, and the narrow strip of grass beside his fence, a portion of his property that he had spent years maintaining, was now occupied by sedans, SUVs, and even a luxury convertible. Jonathan threw on a jacket and stormed outside, his boots crunching against the damp morning grass that was already flattening under the weight of tire tracks. A group of strangers stood laughing by the hood of a silver Lexus, oblivious to the fact that they were standing on his land. A red-faced man in a polo shirt turned to him, beer in hand. "You the valet?" Jonathan's jaw clenched.
No.
"I'm the owner of this property. Why are all these cars here?" The man gave a careless shrug. "Dunno, some HOA thing. Heard we could park here for the party." Before Jonathan could respond, he spotted her, Pamela Weston, the HOA president. She was standing at the entrance of the community clubhouse just a few houses down, dressed in a pastel pink blouse and pearl earrings, sipping champagne like she was the queen of the cul-de-sac. Jonathan didn't hesitate. He marched toward her, weaving through clusters of partygoers carrying gift bags and balloons. The closer he got, the more he realized this was no small gathering. It was an event, complete with caterers setting up trays of hors d'oeuvres and a DJ blasting pop music. Pamela turned just as he reached her. She offered him a polished smile, but her eyes glinted with thinly veiled irritation. "Jonathan, you made it to the party. How lovely." His fists clenched at his sides. "Why are there 57 cars parked on my land?" Pamela barely blinked. "Oh, that." She waved a manicured hand, as if brushing away a trivial inconvenience. "We ran out of room at the clubhouse lot, and, well, you weren't using that space anyway." His pulse hammered. "That's private property." She sipped her champagne. "It's community adjacent." Jonathan took a step closer. "That doesn't mean you can take it without asking." Pamela sighed, exasperated, as though she were speaking to a child throwing a tantrum. "Jonathan, we have HOA authority over all community spaces and that area. Well, it's hardly a vital part of your property, now is it?" Jonathan's hands curled into fists. "It's mine." Pamela tilted her head unfazed. "Oh, come now. It's just a few hours. You don't want to be the neighbor who spoils the fun, do you?" Jonathan gritted his teeth. "I don't care about the party. I care that my land has been taken over without my permission. This is trespassing." Pamela rolled her eyes. "That's a bit dramatic. No one is hurting your precious grass." Jonathan turned his head, just in time to see a teenager kick over his garden lantern, laughing as he ran off toward the bounce house. His patience snapped. "You have until noon to clear those cars off my land, or I'll start towing." Pamela's expression darkened. "Jonathan, don't be unreasonable. I'm well within my rights." She set down her champagne flute with a quiet clink.
Fine.
"If you want to waste your time making a fuss, go ahead. But just know people talk. You wouldn't want the HOA board to start discussing your hostile behavior, would you?" Jonathan's stomach turned. That was a threat. Pamela leaned in slightly, lowering her voice just enough for only him to hear. "We both know how things work around here. The HOA has a long memory. Be careful you don't make life difficult for yourself." His fingers twitched with the urge to wipe that smug look off her face. But instead, he exhaled slowly, forcing himself to stay calm. He wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of an outburst. Instead, he simply turned on his heel and walked away, ignoring the sound of her mocking laugh behind him. As he made his way back to his house, he saw the damage already being done. Tire marks, discarded cups, footprints in the flower beds he had spent months tending. His blood boiled. Pamela thought she could walk all over him, that he was just another homeowner she could bully into submission. But she was wrong. Jonathan wasn't just going to fight back. He was going to win. Jonathan stood at his front door, surveying the wreckage left behind. His lawn, once a pristine green, was now a patchwork of muddy tire ruts and crushed grass. His garden beds had been trampled, the decorative solar lights he'd installed lay smashed, and a half-empty soda can had been stuffed into his mailbox. The HOA party had ended hours ago, but the evidence of their entitlement remained. Jonathan took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm, but his fingers twitched at his sides. This wasn't just about the cars anymore. It was about principle. Pamela Weston had made one thing abundantly clear. The HOA operated on power, not fairness. And she had just declared war. The fine that crossed the line. The next morning, Jonathan stepped outside, a trash bag in hand, prepared to clean up the mess himself. But before he could take a single step off his porch, he noticed a white envelope sticking out from his front door. HOA official notice. His stomach tightened as he ripped it open. Violation. Failure to maintain property aesthetics. Penalty, $500 fine. Reason. Overgrown lawn, visible debris, and property negligence. Jonathan's grip on the letter tightened until the paper crumpled in his hand. Overgrown lawn? The only reason his yard was in disarray was because Pamela's party had destroyed it. A slow, simmering fury settled in his chest. This wasn't just about enforcing HOA regulations. This was punishment. Pamela hadn't just ignored his complaints. She had decided to retaliate. That was when Jonathan knew he was done playing by their rules. A loophole in the system. Jonathan spent the rest of the day in his home office, poring over the HOA bylaws. If Pamela wanted to use the rulebook against him, then he was going to turn it against her. For hours, he read through clause after clause, most of it legal jargon meant to confuse homeowners into compliance. But then he found something. A small but powerful loophole. Buried in the fine print was a clause about underutilized private property. If a homeowner's land was not being used for an essential residential purpose, they could lease or sell it, without requiring HOA approval, as long as it complied with county zoning laws. Jonathan smiled for the first time that day. Pamela had used his land without permission. Now he was going to give it away, permanently. A meeting with an unexpected guest. That evening, Jonathan made some calls. By the next afternoon, he had a meeting. A black sedan pulled up to his house, and a man in a sharp charcoal suit stepped out. He adjusted his cufflinks before offering a confident handshake. "Mr. Reeves," the man said, "I'm Daniel Price. I understand you're looking to lease some land." Jonathan led him to the very patch of property where Pamela had let her guests park. "I'm looking for a tenant who doesn't mind the HOA." Daniel chuckled. "HOAs don't scare me, Mr. Reeves. What are we working with?" Jonathan handed him a folder containing property details and the specific clause that allowed the lease. Daniel flipped through the papers, his eyebrows rising in pleasant surprise. "This is a golden opportunity. Your property is just within commercial zoning limits. We could set up something interesting." Jonathan crossed his arms. "I assume you have connections?" Daniel smirked. "I specialize in acquisitions just like this. Let's just say, I know exactly how to make an HOA miserable." Jonathan's lips curled into a smirk of his own. Pamela had used his land like it was hers. Now he was going to make sure she could never use it again. Jonathan sat in the back of the HOA meeting hall, arms crossed, watching Pamela Weston bask in her usual self-importance. She stood at the head of the long conference table, addressing the assembled homeowners with the same practiced charm she used to disguise her authoritarian grip on the community. "As you all know," she said, adjusting her pearl necklace, "it's been a wonderful month for the neighborhood. Our recent community events have fostered togetherness and unity." Jonathan barely resisted the urge to scoff. Togetherness? Unity? That was a nice way of saying she trampled over anyone who disagreed with her. Pamela smiled as she continued. "Now, before we move on to community concerns, are there any urgent homeowner issues?" Jonathan leaned forward and raised his hand. Pamela's smile faltered for just a second before she composed herself. "Mr. Reeves." Her tone was pure condescension. "Please keep it brief." Jonathan stood, clearing his throat. "Actually, I have something important to announce. It concerns my property." Pamela sighed dramatically. "Jonathan, if this is about the parking situation we've already discussed." This isn't about parking. Jonathan smiled, letting a slight pause settle in the air. I just wanted to inform the HOA that, as of this morning, I've leased part of my property to a third party. The room stilled. Pamela blinked. I'm sorry, you did what? Jonathan pulled a stack of papers from his folder and laid them on the table. According to HOA bylaws, any underutilized private property can be leased or sold without HOA approval, as long as it follows county zoning laws. I've found a tenant. Pamela's face turned a shade paler. Who exactly did you lease it to? Jonathan's smirk widened. A commercial storage company. Gasps rippled through the room. Pamela stiffened. You're joking. Jonathan shook his head. No joke. They're building several large storage units right where your party guests parked. Construction starts in 2 weeks. Pamela's carefully crafted facade cracked. That's impossible. You can't just put a storage facility in the middle of a neighborhood. I can, Jonathan said calmly. The county zoning permits it. I made sure. Pamela gripped the table. This will destroy the community's aesthetics. It will ruin property values. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. Oh, now you care about property values? Murmurs spread through the other homeowners. Some outraged, some intrigued. Jonathan turned to them. I just thought everyone should know, he said, voice smooth and level. Since, Pamela always encourages transparency in HOA affairs. Pamela slammed her palms against the table. This meeting is adjourned. She stormed out, her carefully controlled mask shattered. Jonathan sat back down, satisfied. Pamela had used his land like it was hers. Now it was gone forever. Pamela Weston was unraveling. For weeks, she had been the undisputed queen of the HOA, ruling with an iron fist wrapped in a delicate silk glove. But Jonathan had just shattered her carefully maintained control, and now the cracks were showing. The day after the meeting, Jonathan wasn't surprised when she showed up at his front door, her usual polished demeanor fractured by barely concealed fury. We need to talk, she snapped the moment he opened the door. Jonathan leaned casually against the frame. About. Pamela inhaled sharply, like she was trying to summon patience she didn't have. Jonathan, be reasonable. A storage facility, right in the middle of our beautiful community. Legally zoned, he said, deliberately calm. Just like you used my land for your party without asking, I made sure it was used properly. Her hands clenched at her sides. That was a one-time event. You're destroying the neighborhood out of spite. Jonathan tilted his head. Oh, so taking what isn't yours is fine when it benefits you, but the moment I do something within my rights, it's a threat to the community? Pamela's face twisted. The board won't allow this. He smirked. That's funny, because I already sold the lease. Pamela froze. You what? Jonathan held up a contract. The company made an offer to buy the rights to the land outright. And I took it. Pamela's face drained of color. You can't be serious. Dead serious.
They own it now.
HOA rules don't apply to them. You can fight them, but they have legal teams. Jonathan crossed his arms. Hope you like dealing with lawyers. Pamela staggered back a step, realization crashing over her. For years, she had ruled through intimidation and bureaucracy, but now the game had changed. She had no power here. Jonathan smiled. Oh, and by the way, since it's a commercial property now, they're adding security cameras to prevent unauthorized parking. Pamela stiffened. Wouldn't want another party situation, right? Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she knew it was over. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stalked away, her heels clicking furiously against the pavement. Jonathan watched her go, then turned back to his house. Pamela had played her game. She just never expected to lose.